ADHD. Most of you have heard this acronym, but do you know what it all entails? Good afternoon. I'm Deja Gallant, and although I don't have ADHD, I have several family members that do have it. Schools are pushing ADHD diagnosis, and it may affect you or a loved one. Today I'll inform you on the accountability laws that may influence rising rates of kids with ADHD. 4 key points I'll go over are background information on what ADHD is, how ADHD is affected when schools have a monetary incentive, regional differences in ADHD diagnosis, and why ADHD is being pushed. Before we jump into how accountability laws may influence rates of ADHD, let's start with knowing what ADHD is. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, is one of the most common neurodevelopmental disorders. Children with this may affect their paying attention and being overly active. It's common for children to have these issues, but if they don't outgrow them, then that becomes a problem. Now, let's talk about how ADHD is affected when school receives a monetary incentive. Due to the No Child Left Behind Act that was signed by George W. Bush in January 8th of 2002, school districts are now accountable for test scores. If kids who are struggling with ADHD get treated, it should improve their test scores and their functionality. But it's also the case in many schools, if you have ADHD, your scores don't count, which makes the school overall place ahead of other schools, causing them to receive more money than other schools. So when money is involved, a rise of kids with ADHD diagnosis occurs. With this in mind, let's look at the regional differences in the rate of diagnosis of ADHD. In 2011, the CDC took a national survey that allows anyone to take a snapshot of what percentage of kids are getting diagnosed and take medication for ADHD in each state and the 10 regions around the country. The region with the most diagnosis of a 9.3% and 6.6% on medications are in Region 4, which entails Kentucky, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and other states in that area. For comparison, the region with the least diagnosis of a 5.4% and least medication of 3.1% includes states like California, Nevada, and Arizona, which are located in Region 9. Lastly, let's see why schools are expected to drive ADHD diagnosis and why is it so important. Schools drive these diagnoses because if they didn't, kids would still be hyperactive and impulsive, key symptoms of ADHD. Though these behaviors can be caused outside of the school setting, we expect children to follow certain guidelines, and if the school sees an issue, then they can drive the diagnosis. Now, let's wrap things up about what we learned today. The 4 key points that we went over are background information on what ADHD is, how ADHD is being affected when schools have a monetary incentive, regional differences in ADHD diagnosis, and why ADHD is being pushed. Now you're more knowledgeable about how accountability laws may influence rising rates of kids with ADHD. Thank you, I'm Deja Gallant.